Good evening and a warm welcome to the news. I am Grts. First, the headlines. Sports for Health for promoting health lifestyles scores marked day one of the fifth edition of the national event with a series of sporting activities. Brikama Area Council disposes more than $3 million into gum works as council's contribution to the rural infrastructural development project. Belgian authorities make sweeping arrests as they hunt down suspects involved in the deadly airport and metro bombings in Brussels. And a war of words between Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton and challenger Bernie Sanders intensify ahead of a crucial primary in New York State later this month. Well, viewers, these and other stories come ahead this half hour. I'm your presenter, Grts. Welcome back. Scores of enthusiastic participants from both the public and private sectors Saturday took part in activities marking the fifth edition of the annual Sports for Health program. Day one of the three-day activity witnessed sporting and health-related events led by cabinet ministers, other senior government officials, and members of the private sector. Babuka Senghor has more on that story.
This program has become one of the Ministry of Youth and Sports' main flagship events, and the fifth edition of the Sports for Health highlighted its growing importance in the country. Scores of participants from all walks of life took part in the day-long exercise. For the next 2 days, participants will take part in activities meant to improving healthy lifestyles and promoting sports. This year marks the fifth edition, and participants opened the event with the traditional march past from Churchillstown petrol station to the venue.
When I had the time, I used to do it for 1 hour. So 25 for me is nothing. Because of my busy schedule, I've not been able to do my exercises. So I had little time to do sport. But now my impression is, even before, everybody should embrace sport because it's good for our health. And I'm happy that the kids have been here and they had the statement and they also participated in the walk. But then they will grow up to love sports and also love being active for their own good health.
And as part of activities marking the day, participants also indulged in a light-hearted bodily aerobics session.
The UN is seizing this opportunity to thank the government and people of the Gambia for organizing this very important event. I understand this is the fifth edition of it, and this is critically important for everybody. Sports and health, you cannot separate the two. And again, by extension, we would like to also thank again the Minister of Health and the Minister of Youth and Sport for also blending this year's event with World Health Day. World Health Day, of course, is celebrated every year on the 7th of April, and the theme is very fitting with diabetes, and I think this is the reason why, because diabetes, you cannot talk about preventing diabetes without talking about physical activity.
The initiative also gave a rare opportunity for workers to interact through the exciting sporting activities such as volleyball, athletics, and tug of war. Health workers were also on the ground to offer free blood tests and voluntary counseling.
When you look at non-communicable disease in the Gambia, every day the prevalence is increasing more and more. And this is because the risk factors are on the increase by day. When I talk of the risk factors, it's physical inactivity, use of alcohol, tobacco use, and unhealthy diet. But today, we are on how best to promote physical activity among the civil servants, and that this can be used as an entry point to target the general population.
And indeed, on my own behalf, I will get to the cause of the matter, which is to take this privilege and honor to declare the fifth edition of the Sport for Health 2016 open. We want to invite everybody to take part in the sporting activities that are going to follow, beginning with, of course, we had the Walk for Health, and very soon we'll go through the aerobics, and the other sports will follow. It is very important. It is signifying the fact that this is a government that is very serious. It does not just give words, but it acts on those words.
The Sports for Health is a joint effort of the Ministries of Health and Social Welfare and that of Youth and Sports, based on the need to use sports as a weapon to fight against non-communicable diseases in the country. For Grts News, this is Babukar Senghor.
The community-based infrastructure development project is on the verge of phasing out. It will be replaced by the Rural Infrastructural Development Project. The Brikama Area Council recently presented a check for $3.5 million to GAMWorks in fulfillment of Council's contribution under the new project in the implementation of identified projects in the West Coast region. Kadito Jallo has more on that story.
To partnering with government and GAMWorks in improving the infrastructural development of communities. The governor of West Coast Region hailed the partnership and commended the council for fulfilling their mandate by plowing back taxpayers' money in projects that improve livelihoods.
May I use this opportunity, therefore, to thank Brikama Area Council under the leadership of the chairman and council and under the administrative guidance of the CEO for fulfilling your responsibility as a revenue collecting institution to provide services to our people.
Highlighting some of the projects to be executed, the Chief Executive Officer of Brikama Area Council reiterated the importance of the funds.
The Kusama Bajaga Road, the Kasakunda Road, the Brikama car park access, the rare one, terminating at the highway, to Kembuje, which of course is going to be concrete, is also identified. It depends on how much contribution we are able to make, if there are available funds or left over. But as at now, these are the projects that we have identified.
The Director General of GAMWorks, Ibrahim Cham, gave an overview of the Rural Infrastructural Development Project initiative. As the implementing agency, GAMWorks boss maintained that the agency will continue delivering its expertise to safeguard the trust brought about by this long-standing partnership.
This is a new project, which is a new initiative by His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji A.J. Jammeh, to bring in more infrastructural development to this country. This new project, called the Rural Infrastructure Development Project, is funded by the government to the tune of 14 million United States dollars. Therefore, you can see that it is a major investment by His Excellency the President and his government.
The chairman, Brikama Area Council, Bakari Saibo Sane, and the Minister of Lands and Regional Government commended the government of the day for taking the lead role and to the taxpayers for enabling Brikama Area Council to secure funding for the rural infrastructural development projects. Minister Bayo underlined the importance of good collaboration between all actors in the successful implementation of the projects.
Since councils are directly answerable to their electorates, it is very fitting that they are the ones who have conceived what should be done and where it should be done. However, it is very prudent, it is very necessary for councils and also GAMWorks to work more closely with the ministry that is the executing agency for this project. There will be a steering committee which will involve the key stakeholders. It will be a small body of stakeholders so that there will be smooth flow of information.
It is one thing to implement a project, said Minister Bayo, and another thing to sustain it. He urged the communities to take ownership of the projects and create avenues of sustainability. Khadijatu Jallo, Grts News.
Members of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry Saturday met for the organization's annual general meeting. The report, as Kumbaba tells us, shows significant improvement in GCCI's activities during the year under review.
It has been a truly eventful year for the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The highlights of the institution's 2016 activities report has shown a significant achievement and increasement in image of the true voice of businesses in the Gambia. The president of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry highlighted the numerous successes of the organization in the past 12 months as they continue to engage government and agencies to create more job opportunities for businesses as well as enhance public and private sector dialogue.
Through our various engagements with the government, ministries and agencies, we have been able to discuss many issues of concern to all parties. We also use these opportunities to enhance the public-private sector dialogue and have had two very successful PPP forums that were well attended, and we were fully committed in strengthening this to the highest level.
A comprehensive analysis of the financial statement was read to stakeholders. The report indicates an increase in development as articulated compared to the past years.
The balance sheet, the assets, the plant, property and equipment was 27,353,000. Current assets, receivables 2,2034 million. Cash and bank balances 1,963,000. Total assets of 31,350,000.
Based on our audit report, we conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Those standards require that we comply with ethical requirements, plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement.
According to the president of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, his institution has embraced change in many facets of development and promotion of business enterprises in the country.
We have further welcomed to Cape Jula several missions from multilateral institutions, including the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, IFAD, African Union, many foreign representatives based both locally in Senegal and the region, to name a few. Each time, the GCCI board and management articulate and advocate and present the private sector's position.
Aliu Seka, the CEO, also responded to some of the concerns raised by stakeholders.
We have 700 members in our books. With regret, only half pay any one time. So that has become increasingly a challenge. Likewise, also, if you notice, it's some light companies that are failing more and more to pay their subscriptions. So really, until we get our members to be more responsible and take note of the huge responsibility they carry as light members of the business community, this will be a challenge.
The report was adopted and a new board of committee was elected to oversee the institution as well as monitor their activities for the way forward in supporting all business enterprises in the country. Kumbaba, Grts.
The 58th Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights underway in Banjul. The forum brought together representatives of African countries, non-governmental organizations, commission members and other human rights advocacy groups to discuss on the continent's human rights record and identify new recommendations for the respect and protection of human rights in Africa. GRTS's Ibrahim Jallo covered the opening and filed in this report.
The 58th Ordinary Session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights is said to be particularly important in the annals of the Commission, with human rights defenders making strong emphasis on series of human rights violations perpetrated by political instabilities and the prevalence of abuse of power on the continent. Despite this, though, they have also hailed the smooth and peaceful conduct of elections in several African countries during the year 2015-2016. Speaking at the forum, the representative of NGO's steering committee, Madam Hannah Foster, expressed appreciation with the Gambia government for according steady NGO operation in the country. Madam Foster went on to acknowledge the improved human rights situation on the continent during the past couple of years, but equally raised concern on numerous human rights violations, such as torture, overcrowding of detention centers, arbitrary arrests, and disappearance of journalists, which she said continue to persist in some African countries. She also highlighted the increasing refugee crisis and conflict situation on the continent as a matter of concern, citing the political instability in Burundi and Central African Republic, where a series of human rights violations have been noticed.
There were indeed some positive developments. The conduct of successful elections in some countries, including Benin and Central African Republic, are very heartening examples, as it emphasized that democracy can be achievable if efforts are earnest towards this common goal. However, the assertion that a lot more needs to be done made as many African countries continue to face challenges, Reports on the increasing threat of conflict, of insecurity, disease, poverty, corruption, food insecurity, discrimination of marginalized groups, unemployment, arbitrary detention, and extrajudicial killings.
The Executive Director Network of African National Human Rights Institutions, Gilbert Sebihogo, said 2015-2016 has been a crucial period, being punctuated with coincidental presidential elections for many African nations. The rights official also highlighted the occurrence of human rights denials and called for a stop to the practices.
2015 and 2016 is an important period for the state of democracy in Africa. By December, a number of countries would have already organized elections. The number of states organizing elections this year demonstrate the progress in democracy in Africa. Despite the progress made, there still remain key concerns. The example of elections and violent protests and killings that rocked Burundi's stability after the contested results of the elections are eloquent.
We are marking a significant milestone as we celebrate the African Year of Human Rights, with particular focus on the rights of women, which commemorates and celebrates significant milestones in Africa's human rights history. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the adoption of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and 30 years of its coming into effect, the 26th anniversary of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, the 10th anniversary of the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the 10th anniversary of the adoption of the African Youth Charter.
The Ivorian Minister of Human Rights and Freedom, Paulette Bajo Ezolu, who represented the African Union at the forum, said a lot of initiatives have been introduced by the Commission in ensuring justice and human rights in Africa. She singled out Ivory Coast as the first country to adopt in 2014 a law that guarantees the protection of human rights. Gambia's Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, Suleiman Samba, underscored government commitment to the promotion and protection of human rights. Before declaring the forum formally opened, Samba cited the ban of female genital mutilation in the country and the passing of other human rights-related bills, especially in the area of women and girls' rights, as a testimony to government stance on human rights protection.
The government of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia has worked steadily towards improving the lives of its citizens and ensuring that its obligations under the African Charter and other regional and international human rights instruments are adhered to. To this end, the Gambia has made tremendous strides in various human rights-related areas, such as health, education, empowerment of women and youths, children's issues, and agriculture.
Africa is a garden. We are the flowers. Just allow us to grow, to purify the world, to make it nice. Africa
Ibrahima Diallo, GRTS News.
Ahmadis from across the country and beyond are attending the 40th Annual Jalsa Salana Convention at Masru Senior Secondary School. The convention, which is an annual event for Ahmadia Muslim Jamaat, seeks to provide a platform to reflect on the life and teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as encapsulated in the Holy Book. As educator was there and she files in this report.
أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله.
They are gathered in their hundreds for the 40th Annual Jalsa Salana Convention, organized by the Ahmadia Muslim Jamaat de Gambia, a congregation that brings together Ahmadis and non-Ahmadis alike from all walks of life to reflect on the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as well as the teachings of the Holy Book. Advocating for peace and unity, as encapsulated in the doctrines of the Holy Book, were the buzzwords hammered home by organizers, adding that as Muslims, one should desist from all acts which is against the religion.
We have seen the conditions of the world today. When ignorant, innocent people, Muslims and non-Muslims, are killed in the name of Islam, the most perfect religion, the most peaceful religion. They are doing it only because of their ulterior and self-interest, not in the name of Islam. Islam is pure, Islam is justice, Islam is tolerance, Islam is peace. And this is what we should all advocate as far as we are concerned, the Muslims.
The Jalsa Salana Congregational Meeting is an annual convention in the calendar of Ahmadis that also promote mutual introduction among all brothers and strengthen the fraternal ties within this community. The convention, which continues to grow from strength to strength, further seeks to revive not only the Islamic religion, but making people understand the Holy Quran as well as acting upon it. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Aissatou Keita.
It's time now for our first break. When we return, we take a look at news from beyond our borders. We'll be right back. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. The Federal Prosecution Office in Belgium now says 6 arrests have been made on Friday. Authorities are trying to figure out whether one of them is the third suspect in the Brussels airport bombing. CNN's Fred Pletkin has details in this report.
And the street that we're in is actually cordoned off, and most of the people who live on that street have been told to leave the area. You can see if we pan over there, there's people sort of waiting around. The street that is blocked off is the one that is here to the right. And the building that was apparently searched is this big residential building over there. Now, we've been speaking to some folks here on the ground who've been telling us that it was about 50 police officers who were involved when all of this began. They told all the residents in that building to get out. Not exactly clear what they're looking for. However, what we are seeing, and I do want to show you this, is see this vacant lot here. And as you can see, there's some cops sort of going through that lot, apparently searching for something. It's unclear what exactly that is, whether they think there might be some sort of suspicious person or some sort of suspicious item in this vacant lot here that is right next to that building where this major police operation is taking place. So what we're still seeing here is obviously this entire area still cordoned off. The police officers that are here, I have to say, they do seem pretty relaxed at this point in time. It doesn't look like there's any sort of imminent threat that they seem to be thinking of. They're obviously not wearing any sort of protective gear or anything like that. But clearly this is a very, very large operation that's been going on since about 12:30 local time. So I would say about an hour and 40, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, and is certainly still very much ongoing at this point in time. Obviously, all of this in relation to the terror arrests that have taken place here since Friday night with Mohammed Abrini, also those other suspects. And there have been secondary raids, George, that have been going on here in Brussels ever since those suspects were taken into custody. I was at one until well into late last night, where there was a lot of forensic workers who were still on the scene gathering evidence.
Well, latest news coming out of Brussels say one of those in custody has admitted to being one of the attackers in the Brussels airport bombing. It is a busy day in U.S. politics. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders face up today in Wyoming in a Democratic caucus. 14 delegates and 4 super delegates are up for grabs there. Hillary Clinton leads the overall count with an estimated 1,700 delegates. A much bigger prize on the horizon for Democrats is the state of New York. That crucial primary will be on April 19. CNN's Suzanne Malveau has the latest.
Hillary Clinton not letting go of charges from Bernie Sanders that she is not qualified to be president.
You may have heard Senator Sanders say, I'm unqualified to be president. Well, seriously, I've been called a lot of things over the years, but unqualified has not been one of them. He doesn't really believe that. This is all pretty silly.
The rebuke from the Democratic frontrunner comes as Sanders backs off his earlier criticism of Clinton's qualifications.
Does she have the experience? Obviously she does. She was Secretary of State, a U.S. Senator. I thought an outstanding First Lady in many respects, breaking the mold.
Clinton returning the favor when asked if Sanders is qualified.
As I said, I would take him over Donald Trump or Ted Cruz any day.
Sanders, though, is insisting that Clinton's judgment is still fair game.
We all make mistakes, but I regret less than she does because I had the courage to vote the right way, even when it was not necessarily popular.
A sign of the tough battle underway in New York, ahead of next Thursday's CNN debate in Brooklyn and the state's April 19th primary. Both sides are playing up their Empire State connections.
I'm really going to try to win the New York primary because I love New York.
While the Brooklyn-born Sanders paid a visit to his childhood home.
I spent the first 18 years of my life in apartment 2C right here.
Thursday, Bill Clinton's fire exchange with Black Lives Matter protesters in Philadelphia.
You are defending the people who kill the lives you say matter. Tell the truth.
The former president trying to move beyond his comments during a campaign stop in Erie, Pennsylvania.
I did something yesterday in Philadelphia I almost want to apologize for, but I want to use it as an example of the danger threatening our country. We all have different experiences. We cannot learn anything unless we listen.
Thank you.
Back in New York, where Sanders hopes to maintain his momentum after a string of recent victories. His campaign says it is making plans for an open convention.
We're beginning to work on that right now. In fact, in all likelihood, there will be an open convention.
Well, with that, we'll take a second break. Weather is next. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's now take a look at the weather report courtesy of the Central Forecast Office.
Report, and we'll begin with a summary of the day's weather conditions, where we experienced mostly sunny and generally dry atmospheric conditions across the entire country during the day. We now move over to the satellite image where we can see convective clouds over parts of Central and Eastern Africa, and these areas are still experiencing rainy, lightning and thundery activities. Elsewhere, over the Gulf of Guinea states, we can see medium clouds prevailing across these regions. Now tonight, we're expecting generally dry and cool atmospheric conditions to prevail across the coastal sectors of the country, and as we move towards the inland parts of the country, the temperatures will change to warm conditions during the early hours of the night and cool conditions during late hours of the morning. And these cool conditions are going to give way to sunshine tomorrow morning, thereafter becoming warm and sunny in the afternoon. Surface wind flows during this period will be northwesterlies in direction, and they will be running at a speed of 5 to 25 kilometers per hour. Minimum temperatures will drop up to 14 degrees, as you can see, over Greater Banjul areas, and 13 degrees over West Coast. Areas around this region will experience very cool conditions, and this will increase to 15 degrees over North Bank, going up to 16 degrees over Lower River, 17 degrees over Central River, and 19 degrees Celsius over Upper River region, and this will go up to a maximum of 30 degrees over Greater Banjul areas, going up to 32 degrees over West Coast, and this will increase to 33 degrees as we move on to North Bank region, going up to 34 degrees over Lower River, 36 degrees over Central River, and 39 degrees over Upper River regions. And the areas around these three regions will experience very hot temperatures. Now, for those going at sea, low tides at 6 a.m. will go up to 0.2 meter and 0.3 meter at 6 p.m. At 6 a.m. we'll have a high tide of 1.3 meter and 1.5 meter at 7 p.m. Wave heights will go up to about 1 to 2 meter high, and they will be northwesterly swells. The sun will rise at 6:56 and sets at 19:20. That's the forecast, and a good night.
Like a beautiful day ahead, and with that we come to the end of this newscast. Before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of our day's main stories. Sports for Health, for promoting healthy lifestyles. Scores have marked day one of the 5th edition of the national event with a series of sporting activities. Brikama Area Council has disbursed more than $3 million to GAMWorks as Council's contribution to the Rural Infrastructural Development Project. Belgian authorities have made sweeping arrests as they hunt down suspects involved in the deadly airport and metro bombings in Brussels. And the war of words between Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton and challenger Bernie Sanders have intensified ahead of the crucial primary in New York State later this month. Well, viewers, that was all for this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us, and I'm your presenter, Tenen Jite. Have a pleasant evening.